Hello. So today I am going live talking about how I prepared for getting pregnant for the first time and supporting a healthy pregnancy and birth. So I'm very excited to be diving in here today, just making sure that I am all live in all the channels. So yeah, here we go. So I really started to understand that it was the time to start welcoming a baby into my life. That was in 2020. And my friend actually told me, my friend Kira Young, that there was a little boy in the ether waiting. And yeah, so myself and Richie obviously had that conversation and made that conscious choice that we were going to conceive our first child. So, for those who don't know, in 2018, my mom got really sick and she ended up having a massive grand mal seizure and was placed into a medically induced coma. She was in the coma for 3 months, and that was one of the most stressful times in my whole entire life. She passed away on the 10th of May 2018. So my body went through a huge amount of stress and grief, and I knew that I had to really work on preparing my body, preparing my adrenals and nervous system, and really strengthening my physical body before I actually got pregnant. Even though I was very excited that this was going to be a new chapter and really welcoming such a positive time in my life, I knew it was so important to prepare my body before I conceived. So I spent a number of months, really from 2020 till the summer of 2021, dialing in all of my health practices. So I really focused on nutrition, doing lots of liver cleanses, liver rescue cleanses, which are specifically designed to help the liver to detoxify and to get rid of stored toxicity. And when I trained in nutrition, I started to learn all about how important it is to actually prepare your body for conception, so preconception care. So that was really my focus for my own self and in my own practice as well. I was bringing this into other women's practices and to understand how important it is to actually prepare your body so that you are in a healthy condition as possible. So obviously, we're all exposed to toxicity in this world, and especially if you have gone through, a big stressful experience, adrenaline has a huge impact on your liver health. And just understanding how all your organs work and everything is so important before you get pregnant, because you really do want to have a very deep connection with your physical body before you actually get pregnant. Because when you do get pregnant, it's kind of like it's just all happening, and it can happen quite quickly. All the different changes. So for me, the priority was on doing the liver cleanses and heavy metal detox for both myself and Richie, especially from being exposed to different medical treatments in the past and different medications and things like that, which would all be stored in the body, in the liver. Particularly, obviously, the liver detoxifies the body, and it will store deep-seated toxicity in the body as well to really protect the body. So before you're conceiving, especially the health of the mother and the father is both very, very important, because any toxicity that's in the parents will be passed down through the sperm and through the womb, and the liver of the mother has a profound impact on the health of the baby and how the baby will grow and how the baby will be nurtured and their health, as they obviously will be growing into a fully fledged little baby inside of you. So I was so aware of all of this, and I really, every single month I was just very, very focused and committed to making sure that I was supporting my body and cleansing and hydrating and nourishing, building up my adrenals, as I say, avoiding any stimulants whatsoever. So that meant, no coffee, no black tea, no green tea, no chocolate, no cacao, no anything with caffeine was totally removed before I even got pregnant, because the adrenal health is so important, especially for conceiving, because you need a lot of energy to conceive. You need a lot of energy to gestate a baby. And that same level of energy that's needed for conception is also needed for the birthing process. The adrenals are the engine that really help the body in the energetic output. The surges, what's known as labor, is actually driven by the adrenal strength. So if the adrenals are not in full strength and optimal strength, this can lead to prolonged labor, very long, difficult labors. So I brought all that awareness into my own practice and applied it, because I knew that I wanted to have a home birth, and I knew that I didn't want any medical interventions or anything like that. And I was aware of many women that had planned home births, and for various reasons, not necessarily from a medical emergency standpoint in any shape or form, but actually just from exhaustion, having to transfer to hospital, and then obviously needing a cascade of interventions. And, that can be easily avoided when you actually strengthen the adrenals and strengthen the body so that it's actually able to birth as it's designed. We've been living in a time where women have been running on caffeine for so long, and over the years this burns out the adrenals, this weakens the adrenals, and when you don't have that reserve, that life force energy to be able to birth your baby, then you're going to need to have interventions. And that was something that was not on the table for me. That was not what I wanted. So I knew if I was to really get the birth of my dreams and have that experience, then I had to put in the work for my physical body to have the strength and the integrity and the stamina to be able to birth at home, a first-time mom, and understanding everything and the whole process of physiological birth is so important, so essential, because if you are to take full responsibility for your health in pregnancy, you have to understand the whole lay of the land. You have to understand exactly how your body works. And even things like, because I didn't get any medical tests during my pregnancy at all, but I wasn't doing that, with blind hope and blind faith that, I hope everything's okay. No, I was actively supporting my body. So I was making sure that I wasn't getting gestational diabetes. I was making sure that I wasn't getting preeclampsia, because I was taking active measures to support my health, to make sure that I wasn't developing those conditions in pregnancy. I was very, very, very particular about what I ate in pregnancy to support a healthy pregnancy. Is so important, because when you have gestational diabetes, then you don't have enough glucose in the bloodstream, and you need a steady flow of glucose going to your baby to develop your baby, to develop their brain, to develop all their organs and everything for it to be working properly. So if you're not engaging in medical testing, then you have to take full responsibility and ownership on making sure that you have the best health for yourself, but also for your baby. You have a responsibility for your baby, and you are the one who is fully responsible for creating the health and the conditions for your baby to thrive. That is your job. And as you are stepping into your role and initiating into becoming a mother, which starts, I feel, in preconception, when you are making that conscious choice to call in your baby, then you are beginning the stage of initiating into motherhood. Just because you're not yet pregnant doesn't mean that you're not in that process. Even just making that conscious choice and, hopefully getting your partner on board, that you're on the same page, and you're also holding the same vision, because it's not just about getting pregnant. It's really about creating the conditions in your life to be able to facilitate this new soul, this new being, this baby, to come into your life and to create the right environment for them to flourish, for them to thrive, and for them to feel so held and so safe that you are their mother, and your husband or partner is their father. So yeah, Richie, he did a detoxification program as well, and he also did homeopathy with our homeopath, Marie O'Neill, to make sure that any medical treatments were also detoxified out of his system. And obviously, there is so much that you can get worried about and fearful about around this whole experience. But it's very important. And I felt in my journey was very focused on what empowered action I can take, and then showing up to that action and being very intentional around my choices, and just really creating a very, very nourishing cocoon for my body, creating the boundaries so that I didn't have energetic interference, but also not just like pulling the wool over my eyes and pretending that I was just going to walk into this massive life-changing experience blind. Not in the least. I got educated, I surrounded myself with wise women, I took courses, and I empowered myself around physiological birth. I unpacked and unlearned a lot of the birth myths that are out there. And once I started to really peel back all of this back, I came into deeper and deeper levels of trust, and the fears that I had started to dissolve as I started to walk through them, and to realize like what was risk, what was the most supportive environment that I could provide for my both pregnancy but also my birth, because it's all interconnected. You can't focus on all the health of your body and then just surrender your health to the medical system, which is not designed to support physiological birth. It's designed to support medicalized birth. That's what it's set up for. That's what it does. And, its role is there as needed for emergencies. And that's really my viewpoint. It's there for emergencies, for medical emergencies. And I understood what looked like and how I could discern and understand what is actually a true medical emergency versus what is actually manufactured inside the hospital system. Because when you interfere with birth, for example, I know a lot of women who have been induced because they went past their so-called due date, which is again completely not accurate, because we all have different lengths of gestation for our babies. Some women are a little bit shorter, some women go a little bit longer. There is variations, and the measure of that thing with due dates anyway is based on an old archaic model, and it really causes so much unnecessary harm, because women, when you are engaging in medical systems, then you're on this kind of ticking clock to your due date, and if you go beyond your due date and there is no medical need for any intervention, you're just being pulled in and induced and fear-mongered and all this. So I've seen this happening to so many different women, and I made that choice that that wasn't the path that I was going to choose, and I chose to take full ownership of my birth. And for me, a free birth was the highest choice, because I didn't want any interference of somebody who was operating within the medical system and saying, okay, you're beyond your due date now, and we're going to bring you in to be induced. And that induction of labor has so many risk factors that women are not educated about. I think it's just like a normal thing to do because so many people are getting it done. And it often leads to a cascade of interventions whereby you end up having emergency C-sections because your body wasn't ready to birth. So I had a very beautiful, healthy pregnancy. I had really great health. I felt so well in myself. Again, I was making sure that I was really dialing in and making sure that my nutrition was on point. I had all of the right supplements, and making sure that I was taking, you know, herbs and stuff like that. You have to be very careful in pregnancy. So again, before I got pregnant, I understood exactly what I should take and versus what I shouldn't take in pregnancy, because it can be different when you're preparing your body to get pregnant. But when you are pregnant, then you do need to be more careful with herbs. So you really need to be focusing on getting your nutrition from foods, and even like prenatal supplements that are out there. For example, a lot of them are synthetic, and they are from pharmaceutical companies that are producing synthetic vitamins for prenatals, and they're not very helpful, and they contain folate, which is a problem for a lot of women, especially if you have methylation issues. So just understanding all of this is something that I am actually creating a free 3-part workshop series called Purify. So it's a workshop series that's going to be running over a few weeks. So you're going to get a workshop each week so you can go through all of this, and it really lays out the blueprint of preparing your body to get pregnant, boosting fertility naturally, because I know a lot of women nowadays are having issues, difficulty conceiving because of various health issues. And so I'm going to be laying out the blueprint of how you can support yourself naturally to get your fertility back working so that you can call in your baby and you can conceive naturally. And then the blueprint of laying out a healthy pregnancy and birth. So, you might have ideas around what that looks like for you right now. A lot of, for the past 100 years, women feel en masse that the safest place to go is like going to the hospital. But once you actually unpack all of that, you realize that really the best place to birth is a home birth. But you want to have your health in a very strong place to be able to do that, and to be having a successful home birth requires that you understand how to support your physical body so that you can have a birth at home, not needing any intervention, but actually to understand that birth is designed for a woman ideally to be in her own space where she feels extremely safe and calm, and there's no interference, there's no bright lights, there's no machines beeping, there's no one poking and prodding you, there's nobody looking into your vagina, there's nobody up in your face. You want to actually go into like your cave, you want to go into your inner space, and you want to be connecting to the soul of your baby. And that is a completely transcendental experience, because it's not just, it is a physiological experience in that your body has this inbuilt mechanism to birth. It's designed to birth. I didn't push out my baby at the end. This fetal ejection reflex, it's called, completely took over, where my body was literally just expelling the baby. And it was like this lovely dance between me and the baby. The surges in my womb were powering up, and my baby was making his way down through the birth canal, and he was born into the water in my living room. And he actually came out, his head was like to the side like that, and his little hand, because I can see it in the video, you can see his little hand is like that. And with the last surge, he emerged into the water, and it was amazing. I scooped him up into my arms, and his eyes were just so vibrant, and he was just, oh my gosh, so healthy. And he started to cry, and I really was excited for that, because I just wanted to hear that he was, well and breathing and all the stuff. And it was just so incredible to witness how my body just did that without any instruction. I wasn't in my head, it was just like my body was just doing it. And I realized, like, you don't actually have to push out a baby, like your body literally brings it down. And the more that you work in harmony with your body, the easier it is. And pain relief is actually created by the oxytocin that's produced in your body. And what actually reduces oxytocin is fear. So going through all the different fears that you have, is so important before you get pregnant, during your pregnancy, and really like facing them, like facing the fires of your fear, because they're not something that you can avoid. It's what's going to come up in your birth, because when you're initiating into being a mother, you have to be able to walk through all of these fears and be able to come out the other side and build your self-trust and build your trust in being a mother. And, the birth of your baby is also the birth of you as a mother. You are fully stepping into that role, and the birthing process is designed perfectly to initiate you into being a mother. And not only that, it's actually an opportunity for you to realize just how strong and powerful you are, and how capable you are. And, we've been in this time of, there's been so much artificial beliefs and ideas around pregnancy and birth and all of these things. And we are now dissolving that. Like, these women are stepping up and reclaiming their health, reclaiming their pregnancy, reclaiming their birth, because this is where it begins. This is the origin. This is what maps out the blueprint of your family, how you will live, how you will create your family's trajectory. And for me, the health of pregnancy and birth is very much the foundation of everything, because it really starts the whole process of your life. And I can see that in my son, how vibrant he is, and also how much of the level of responsibility I feel. I don't outsource my responsibility to others. And that happened because of the experience that I walked through in the preconception, the pregnancy, and the birth. I was taking full ownership, and rightly so, because there's nobody in the world who's more invested in the health of your child than you are. And when you understand how much interference is happening and how births are happening in the maternity services, and the percentage of surgical births that are happening are over half, over 50%, not over half, over 50% of all births are happening, with C-sections. And you can see why, because there is, like, I went into my labor started, the surges started on 12 midday, so 12 noon on the 17th of April. I went to the bathroom and went to the toilet. I went back to bed. I was reading a book. I was drinking a juice. And then I felt like this wetness. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I wet myself. So I went to the toilet and I wiped, and I was like, I didn't wee. What's happened? So anyway, it was basically the mucus plug had come through. And that's a sign, that the cervix is getting ready, and it's going to start its process of dilating and all that. So the surges started very gently. I was able to go out to the beach, and we did our last photo shoot of the bump, and went home and set up the birth pool. Well, obviously I didn't. I was just like hanging out. Richie set up the birth pool and nothing was happening. So we went to bed around 11 p.m. And then I woke up like with this very powerful surge, like 5:30 the next morning. So that was the Monday morning so that was Monday the 18th of April. And I didn't leave the house then. I was in my living room. Richie was bringing me food, hydrating me. We had all of our coconut waters lined up. We had everything lined up. I had all my birthing affirmations. I had the pool. I had relaxing music, and the contractions. Well, I call them surges now, because they are like powerful surges that your womb is a muscle, and it's like powering the baby's emergence. So those surges started to gradually build up, and I was kind of measuring them in the space. They were kind of getting shorter and shorter in terms of space. So, maybe 3 minutes apart kind of thing. I was having a rest in between them. And then I got into the birth pool, and it was like from 5:30 p.m. onwards, it just got, I kind of lost all connection with time and space. It was just like, I was just in it. It was just happening. Richie was supporting me. I was moving. I was trying to get into different positions that felt more comfortable. And eventually I actually got into like a backward position. And I was just like sitting back, and that felt more comfortable, because I was like, one time just like had my hands over the pool, and it just felt like too much pressure in my pelvis to be sitting in that position. So I went kind of back onto my back, and with the surge, it just felt like all this pressure building up. So I would actually hang from Richie's arms, and like that would like just really relax my pelvis, and it would just like relieve the pressure. Poor Richie, he had to like hold on to my arms. I was swinging out of him, and that was very comfortable for me to do that. And that kind of just kept building up. I got to a point mentally where I was just like, oh my gosh, like how long more is this going to take? Is this baby ever going to come out? And, Richie was really great. He was affirming to me, this is all happening. Your body's opening like a flower. Your body's designed to birth, because I had all my birth affirmations written out. So he was reaffirming them back to me. He wasn't like placating me or anything. He was just like, just with me in what I was experiencing, and he was just so present, and that is exactly what I wanted to feel. And I couldn't have had that with anyone else other than Richie, because he is my love, and he knows me so much. He knows me probably better than anyone. So I felt so safe with having him there as my support, and just really holding the space for me, because there was nobody that could do it for me, only myself. Um, and I was in my head a little bit towards the end, and then it kind of just like my body just took over, because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is happening. So the pressure was building up, and then it was like, what was about 3:30, I think. The waters broke into the water. It looked like almost like somebody threw like what are they called when people throw water bags? They throw water bombs at you. Anyway, I can't think of the word. But basically, it was like a water bag going off, and it was my waters breaking into the water, and I could just see it. And oh my gosh, like the relief was so immense. It was amazing. It was just like this deep pressure building in my pelvis, and then once the waters broke, it was like, oh my god, I just felt so much better. And from that moment, I put my hands down, and I could feel the head. Like, I could feel his head straight away. I could feel his little scalp was all kind of like bunched up, and his head was there. And like that, I didn't actually have to push. I was literally just sitting there, and the surges were building, and his head was slowly, slowly, slowly crowning. I didn't have to push, or there was no force. His head was crowning. It was like slowly, slowly emerging, and I was also kind of like, how is this even going to possibly come out? And it was actually very, very slowly, so I wasn't tearing or anything like that, because I think if somebody is coaching you outside of you, they don't know how you feel in your body. Like, nobody can tell. Like, only you can tell like how it feels. So like that, I was kind of like, I wasn't pushing. I was just letting my body to gently, gently open, gently, gently open. And then all of a sudden, the fetal ejection reflex kicked in, and that was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I was just making these really guttural noises, and it was like my body was like, like that kind of feeling, like the muscles were just like pushing, pushing, pushing. It was actually expelling him. And with that, his whole head came out, and like that, his head was actually to the side, like that. So he wasn't coming head first; he was actually coming sideways. There's a official term for that, but I can't think of it right now. So he came out like that, and my body just opened perfectly. It was like he came out the cervix, he came out the yoni. It opens like a gate, it closes back in. And then the next surge, it took a few minutes. He was actually in the water for a good, like, maybe 3-4 minutes. His head was just out in the water. People have said to me, is he not breathing? There is no issue. Once they're in the water, they're not taking a breath. A baby doesn't take its first breath until it hits the air. And even then, he's connected through the umbilical cord, so he's getting his oxygen supply through that, and that's all fine. So there's no rush to get them out or anything like that. So he was in the water. I was very, very calm at this stage, because when his head was coming out, there was like a burning kind of ring of fire for like maybe a few minutes, or maybe a minute. I don't know. It was very little time. And once the head was out, it was just like, oh. And I think Richie was more like, because I suppose he was seeing him from outside, whereas I could only feel the head. I wasn't really like, I wasn't able to look in. I was just like hanging back, and just my body was resting, building up the power, building up the power, building up the power. And then the energy rose to the peak, and then surged out the body. Rian's body came out in one little maneuver, and didn't feel anything, just felt nothing, as in there was no discomfort. It was just like, oh, there we go. Scooped him up into my arms, and there he was, looking at me with his beautiful eyes, and I was just like, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. And he started looking for the breast and was starting to breastfeed. And then I was in the water for a while, just kind of acclimatizing. And then Rian was kind of slipping off the nipple because it was a bit wet from being in the water. So I asked Richie to get all our towels, and we had everything set up there. So I got out, Richie dried me, put on my robe, and I lay down on the couch and was breastfeeding him. And that's very important for the mother after the birth, is to be calm and warm and lying down, breastfeeding. And that's what brings up the oxytocin. And that helps then for the birth of the placenta, because the birth isn't finished until the placenta is born. So we decided to cut the cord then. It was around an hour and a half after birth. So the cord had gone completely white. All the blood, all his blood count had gone from the placenta back into his body. Because when they're born, around 40% of the blood is in the placenta, which is why it's very important to not cut the cord immediately, because you want that full blood count going, all the red blood cells, all the iron supply, all the blood that they need for their full health and vitality. Super, super important. So we cut the cord and we just kind of burnt the end of it, because we were planning to do a cord burning ceremony. It was taking too long, so I just said to Richie, just cut it and just, cauterize the end, just singe it so it wouldn't, his Rian's cord wouldn't bleed then afterwards. And that worked very easily. And so then Richie held Rian while I went upstairs and I went to the bathroom, and then I got a bowl. Well, I had a bowl with me, went into the bathtub and just slightly squatted over the bowl, and a surge in my womb came, just one, and I kind of slightly bared down, a little bit of a push, and out came the placenta into the bowl, and the birth was complete. The birth of the placenta, which is known as the first mother from Sister Morningstar. I absolutely love that whole story, that the placenta is actually the first mother and is the fetal organ. So the baby actually grows this organ to nourish and to feed itself while it's gestating in the womb. And yeah, it was so beautiful to have that ownership over the placenta, to, make that call, like, this is the time to get it birthed, get it ready, making sure that it was all completed so that us as a family of 3 could go to bed and relax. And baby Rian went to sleep. He was on the boobie. He was having his milk, his colostrum, which is the first milk. And it was just the most serene, beautiful, blissful, euphoric, empowered, sovereign birth that I could have dreamed for. And yeah, I was just over the moon, delighted and in love with Rian. And Richie was so in love with Rian and with each other and with the family that we've created. And I just want to pass this on to other women and empower other women to really prepare their body for a healthy pregnancy and for a healthy birth, in their power, in their sovereignty, in the innate knowing that's in your body, that's in every single cell of your body, that's encoded to birth. We have lost this wisdom over a few generations, and we are now at a time of massive reclaiming of our wisdom, reclaiming of our power, reclaiming of our femininity, our feminine power that's within both women and men. That feminine depth that understands the mystery, that understands the unseen, that understands the unknown, that can communicate with the unseen. Some people have said to me, how did you know if he was safe in the birth, and how did you know all, it was all going well? Because I knew how I felt. I knew I am very connected to my instinct. My body is cleansed, so I can feel my intuition very, very clearly. And I, like, after every surge, Rian would give this most beautiful kick. And I felt it was like this dance, my womb would surge and he would get that energy to move him down through the birth canal. And then he would give a kick while he was still kind of, up towards the womb. And I just felt this beautiful communication between me and him, mother-baby communication. And that is so real. So it's like, if there is any issue, you actually know what's happening yourself. But we've been so conditioned that somebody else outside of us knows more than us, or that our instincts or our gut instinct isn't valid, So this is why communing with all of these aspects of yourself before you even get pregnant is so, so important. So that when the time comes for your pregnancy and then for your birth, that you are just completely tuned in and you are ready for a birth that's going to be empowering and blissful and absolutely how your body is designed. And when you have that experience, it's like nothing else in the world. It's the best experience you could ever have as a woman. It's a peak experience. It's designed to be a peak experience. And the oxytocin is a natural pain relief. So again, like my birth wasn't pain free. Like some women are like having orgasmic births and pain free births. Um, you know, I wouldn't describe it as painful. It was more like intense. It was just intense. It was an intense physical experience, but it was never more than I could handle. Never. And what made it more difficult was the being in the head, being in the mind. And it's actually when you just drop into the body, drop into your center and just breathe with it. And instead of fighting the intensity, that you actually go with it, that you're actually harmonizing and you're syncing up with that and you're surrendering to it. And it's actually, it is a choice point to choose to trust it. And that is the fire of the initiation of birth, is to choose to trust in yourself and to walk through it and to go through it and to go through the transition where the baby is dropping into the birth canal. And I know the experience varies from women to women, because for some, you know, the transition hardly even happens. The baby just drops in very quickly. And if you have subsequent births, so it's not your first birth, that can happen even quicker again. But yeah, it was never so. As in, how do you support pain relief? There's various ways that you can support that. And it's very important that you are making sure that your body is warm, that you're hydrated, that you're nourished throughout the birth. And these are the things that can happen and are fully in your control when you're at home, versus if you're in the hospital, those things can be often taken from you. So if you are cold, for example, you're not warm, that can increase pain. And you want to be creating an environment where your oxytocin levels rise as much as possible. And that's that peak experience that's designed. Birth is actually designed to be a peak experience, and it's the oxytocin. Like your oxytocin will never be as high. Like it's literally, there's nothing in the world, no ayahuasca ceremony or anything like that outside you is ever going to come close to what a peak experience is like with birth. It is just a euphoric experience, and it's touching the hand of the divine, and it's knowing your divine essence, and it's knowing your baby's divine essence, and it is to expand your consciousness and open you to be the steward of your child, as the child's authority, as the child's steward through this life. And taking that back fully into your hands, I feel, is what birth is designed to do. And, you know, that's why I'm so excited to create the Purify 3-part workshop series, which I'm going to be breaking down the blueprint of all of my experience that I have walked through. So if you are interested in that, you can find the link below the comments in, I'm saying it wrong. I'm always mixing it up, so I have it written out here to make sure I'm saying it right. You will find the link to join in the comments below. So apologies there for saying it in the wrong direction. But yeah, so if you have any questions, of course, you're welcome to send me a direct message as well. But yeah, so Purify is going to be coming tomorrow. The first workshop is going to be out, and I'm going to be leading you through the blueprint of preparing for pregnancy, to get pregnant, also to boost fertility naturally if you are struggling to conceive. If you have any health challenges, I'm going to be going through all the ways in which you can support your body to heal your reproductive health and to nourish your reproductive health, so that you are able to conceive naturally, and also to support a healthy pregnancy and all the various health pregnancy complications that can happen, how to support them naturally, how to prevent them from happening, and how to support any issues that may emerge in the pregnancy, so that you have your full toolkit for healthy pregnancy and birth, and to really set your family up for the best health possible through this initiation of pregnancy and birth. So thank you so much for joining today. It's been very exciting to share my story. I have shared a little clip of the birth on my Instagram account, which is at Ashing Fitzgibbon. You can check that out. It's actually just the emergence of Rian. You'll see the way his head is coming out. He's in the water. Now, I have edited the clip because of, you only have like a minute on Instagram. It's actually much longer in between his head coming out to his actual body coming out. The time frame is much longer. He was actually out for a number of minutes before his body emerged. And I'm going to be sharing the full birth documentary in my program that I'm going to be talking to you about in the workshop series, which is called Purify. So yeah, I'm very, very passionate about sharing this with other women and helping them to have the ideal pregnancy and birth for them, and to really reclaim that in their power and in their sovereignty. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you here very soon.